Mayor, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Elmwood Park Mayor and Council for June 6, 2013 to order at 8:02 p.m. On roll call, council members Catamagna.
Here.
Castiglia.
Here.
Conboy.
Here.
Pettigano.
Here.
Bonsino.
Here.
Coletti.
Here.
Mayor Mola.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Will everyone please stand for our prayer and flag salute? Oh God, our Father, we ask you to bless our meeting, which we trust to your fatherly care and protection. Please remove all selfishness and prejudice from our hearts and plant therein the keen sense of justice and the greater love for you and our neighbor. Guide us in our deliberations so our decisions will always please you and bring peace and happiness to our community. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whereas Chapter 231 of Public Laws, State of New Jersey, requires the commencement of each meeting a statement by the presiding officer, now therefore be advised this meeting requirements have been met by posting an annual notice of record of Hackensack, the Herald News of Woodland Park, and by posting such notice in the office of the Borough Clerk, as well as a public place within the municipal building, and by notifying interested citizens. Said notice was posted on January 1, 2013.
Mayor, this evening, under the approval of minutes, we have the April 11th, 2013 work session, April 25th, 2013 work session, April 25th, 2013 executive session, May 16th, 2013 regular meeting, May 16th, 2013 executive session, May 23rd, 2013 work session, and May 23rd, 2013 executive session.
Gentlemen, if you've missed any of these, just point out the date, and Mr. Kazmark will mark you abstain on that.
Mayor, I understand there may be some comments on these minutes this evening.
Well, let's have a motion on it first.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonsino, second.
I second.
Mr. Catamagna, any discussion?
Yes, Mayor. I have a comment on the May 23rd work meeting. Keith, under number 1, on the discussion of the library requirements, just two comments. One, I guess there was two state requirements. One was on state aid,
Yes.
and the other was line of sight requirements.
Yes, with regard to whether or not they would need additional staff on a second floor.
That was missing from the comments. And then at the end, it said Councilman Bonsino stated he would like to see the data, but I said I'd like to see the data by our next work meeting, which was on June 14th.
Okay. I will amend that as noted.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Call a roll, please.
On roll call, council members Catamagna.
Yes.
Castiglia.
Yes.
Conboy.
Yes.
Pettigano.
Yes.
Bonsino.
Yes.
Coletti.
Yes.
Minutes are adopted.
Mr. Kazmark,
Yes.
if I can, before you start the regular roll, as you can tell that this meeting is being videoed for cable channel 77. It'll be on Tuesday noontime, Thursday at 4 p.m., and Friday at 11 a.m., and it's also on our website. Thank you.
Mayor, this evening under ordinances, we have Resolution 199-13, introduce ordinance 13-17 on second reading. Whereas public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Article 2, the Borough of Elmwood Park, entitled Offices Created. And whereas said ordinance was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, May 16th, 2013, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. And whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given the opportunity to be heard concerning same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Elmwood Park that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Article 2, the Borough of Elmwood Park, entitled Offices Created, pass on final reading.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mayor, that's a motion to the public.
A motion to open the public. We had Conboy and who else?
Me.
And Castiglia.
Got it.
All in favor? Opposed? So what? Mr. Kazmark, would you just indicate what this ordinance is?
Yes, Mayor, this is an amendment to the ordinance governing the municipal clerk's office. As was stated at the previous meeting, we were contacted by the state of New Jersey with some interest into overtime and compensation time, and they felt that it needed to be outlined in the ordinance governing the municipal clerk's office relative to election night compensation, which has typically been received by the municipal clerk and their staff over the past 30 years.
Anyone want to comment on that? If not, I'll close the public portion and indicate that Mr. Kazmark and his staff have been doing so good at election night that the governor gave him 2 more this year.
Is that why he did that?
For one person running for it. So we have 2 more elections for one person. And fortunately for us, that's going to be paid for by the state, and I'm glad he was able to find $24 million. If we can get $1 extra $1 million out of him, we can get a parking ride. Because we were notified the week before that there wasn't any money available for a parking ride. So, call the roll, please.
We need a motion, Mayor, on adoption.
I thought we had a motion.
We had it on the public.
Catamagna, second?
Second.
Mr. Coletti shaking his head yes. Any comments? Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members, Catamani?
Yes.
Castiglia?
Yes.
Conboy?
Yes.
Pettigano?
Yes.
Lonsino?
Yes.
Coletti?
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 200-13, introduced ordinance 13-18 on second reading. Whereas public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Administration by establishing a new ordinance 2-60 to be entitled Volunteer Ambulance Corps Stipend. And whereas said ordinance was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, May 16, 2013, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. And whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given the opportunity to be heard concerning same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Elmwood Park that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Administration by establishing a new ordinance 2-60 to be entitled Volunteer Ambulance Corps Stipend pass on final reading. We'll need a motion to open to the public.
Explain it, please.
Mayor, this ordinance was actually codified by resolution a number of years ago. It awards ambulance corps members $20 for each call made during the daytime hours. Again, similar to the ordinance that we just adopted, this is a housekeeping matter, and this $20 stipend needs to be codified by ordinance rather than by resolution.
Motion open to the public, please.
So moved.
Mr. Boncino, Mr. Conboy, any discussion, all in favor? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard? No one wish to be heard, I'll close the public portion. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Conboy and Boncino the opposite way. Comments? Call the roll, please.
Roll call, council members. Catamani?
Yes.
Castiglia?
Yes.
Conboy? Pettigano?
Yes.
Lonsino? Yes. Coletti?
Yay.
Motion carries. Resolution 102-13, introduce ordinance 13-19 on second reading. Whereas public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Administration. And whereas said ordinance was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, May 16, 2013, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. And whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given the opportunity to be heard concerning same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council, the Borough of Elmwood Park, that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2, the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Administration, pass on final reading. Mayor will need a motion to open to the public.
Could you explain it, please?
Yes, this ordinance will increase the LoSAP contribution to our volunteer firefighters and those members of the ambulance corps that qualify. The council's made the determination to increase the cost of that program that is passed on to those members.
Thank you. Motion open to the audience?
So moved.
Boncino, second?
Second.
Pettigano, discussion? Call the roll. No. All in favor? Opposed, so ordered. Public, any comments? No comments, I'll close the public portion. May I have a motion on the ordinance, please?
So moved.
Boncino
Second.
and Castiglia. Comments?
Yes, if I may, Mayor, regarding the stipend that we give to the ambulance corps and fire department, it's been since its inception, which I think was 7 or 8 years ago, there hasn't been an increase, and this increase that we're giving them is really nominal in the sense of what we get back in return from them. We can never repay them, and this is just a small way of saying thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Nothing. I think it's a good idea.
Sure.
These people volunteer,
Volunteers.
And I think they deserve a little bit of money, maybe an incentive to get more people to be volunteers.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members. Catamani?
Yes.
Castiglia?
Yes.
Conboy?
Yes.
Pettigano?
Yes.
Lonsino?
Yes.
Coletti?
Yay.
Motion carries. Mayor, this evening under the consent agenda, we have Resolution 102-13, payment of bills, Resolution 203-13, confirmation of checks, Resolution 204-13, confirmation of payroll, Resolution 205-13, authorization to execute the agreement for Elmwood Park citizens to use the Fair Lawn Memorial Pool during the summer, R206-13, approve annual block party for Lily Arts Lane. Resolution 207-13, approve coin toss events, volunteer ambulance corps. Resolution 208-13, approve change of holiday schedule for 2013. Resolution 209-13, redeem third-party tax lien, Block 1505, Lot 58. Resolution 210-13, release road opening performance bond for Rose Pucci. Resolution 211-13, renew liquor licenses for the 2013-2014 license term. And that concludes the consent agenda.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'm sorry.
Coletti and Conboy, discussion?
Yes, Mayor, Resolution 205-13, maybe this should be explained to the people. We're going to use the Fairlawn pool. Maybe you should tell them how much it's going to cost them. Do we have the price for that?
Councilman, I'll be honest with you, I do not have the contract with us. It was presented at the previous work meeting, but we do advertise this information on the borough website, and this year with the addition of our Facebook page, I can ensure that we'll advertise it to the public through that
All right.
means as well.
Thank you.
For some reason, I think it's $100, but I'm not sure.
No,
I
that's
think
more
it's a
than
little more than
More than
that.
that?
That's more than
Call the roll, please.
On roll call on the consent agenda, council members Catamagna.
Yes.
Castiglia.
Yes.
Conboy.
Yes.
Patagano.
Yes.
Bonsino.
Yes.
Coletti.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mayor, this evening under reports, we have the Recreation Department for May 2013, the Municipal Court Report for April of 2013, and the Library Board Minutes for March 18th and April 22nd, 2013.
Motion to accept,
So moved.
Coletti and
Castiglia.
Castiglia, all in favor? Opposed, so ordered.
That concludes my portion of the meeting, Mayor.
Committee reports? You want to start?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Mayor, I'll start with, I want to thank Senator Nellie Paul for helping us to get a grant for $580,000 for Market Street streetscape. This will be to renovate up to the boulevard. Just to say thank you to Nellie Paul. Then I have, I attended the last meeting of the homeowner association, and there were more people this time, more than before, and it was interesting. And on June 21st, they have a bus going to Mount Airy Casino. The bus will leave from Emil Park Recreation Center, 10 o'clock a.m., and we'll be back by 7:30 p.m. The cost is $25. They get back $25 in cash, plus a voucher for food for $10. If anybody wants to go, to call Linda Colombini, 201-966-7694. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Conboy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to remind everybody, as the school year is coming to an end soon, in a couple of weeks, please don't forget to get out and register for our recreation summer camp. Registration is going very well, and we want to make sure every child has an opportunity to get in on our wonderful planned summer camp this year. A lot of great events are planned. Also, at the Recreation Center on June 28th, Friday, June 28th, there'll be a splash night from 6 to 8 p.m. The spray grounds will be open for free to everybody in town, and it will conclude the evening with a movie, Finding Nemo. It's a great night out. There'll be light refreshments for sale, popcorn, drinks, that kind of stuff. So come on out and have a lot of fun on Splash Night, hosted by the Recreation Center and their commission and our rec director, Ms. Pugliese. Also, just want to remind everybody, if you haven't seen the signs around already, please get out and support our Bombers. Registration is ongoing. Football season is only about maybe about 6.5 weeks away. Practice starts usually the first week of August. So come on out and register for our Bombers, great winning traditional program, and our cheerleaders who do a phenomenal job. So get involved, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Bonsino?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. First, I'd like to commend our police department and the work they did in the investigation and the subsequent arrest related to the threat at the high school recently. You may have saw the article in Community News that summarized it this morning. But the police department will be working with school officials to look at what happened that day, how we responded, what worked, what didn't work, to look at how the process can be improved, and in a spirit of continuous improvement. So we're looking forward to those meetings. The chief is very proactive when it comes to that, and how he can approach policing and put the best force out there for our residents. This past week, a sergeant's exam was held. Approximately 13 officers sat for the exam. We have one position to fill, so we'll be looking to fill that as soon as we get the results of the test. You may recall last year, well, maybe more than a year ago, we've talked about the pedestrian crossing on Route 4 by the train station, and we looked at what we could do. Put from is it feasible to put a pedestrian bridge over to adding a traffic signal? And you may recall we petitioned the state and our representatives for a traffic signal. We received a response through Representative Gordon's office from the Department of Transportation. I want to just read a couple of excerpts from it. As you're aware, as a result of requests from the boroughs of Elmwood Park and Fairlawn to enhance pedestrian safety, the Department of Transportation has undertaken an investigation of that intersection. And that investigation concluded that because of the current traffic regulations or engineering regulations, a traffic signal per se isn't most appropriate for that location. However, they thought this hawk light, which is used in other areas in the state, which is a yellow light, and when a pedestrian pushes the button, it changes to a red stop signal. They think that's warranted at that intersection or that crossing, and they're going to continue the design of that, working with the borough of Elmwood Park and the borough of Fairlawn. So I'm glad to see that we're moving forward in that regard. And finally, I read an opinion piece today on the internet. I do look at the internet at work while I'm working, but it was on my lunch hour though, in case anybody from Honeywell was listening.
This is recorded.
I know.
Be careful, look.
That was on your lunch hour.
On my lunch hour, yes. All 5 minutes of it. But yeah, I read this opinion piece. I thought of my son Michael, who today's June 6th. He was sitting for his math final, and go figure, his father's an engineer. He's taking the math final. You think he'd be exempt from the math final, but I guess he never listened. But I thought of all the residents of Elmwood Park who will be standing up for their high school graduation this month, and I wanted to just share parts of this article. It's entitled D-Day's Greatest Lesson, and it's by an author, Walter Borneman, and he talks about 69 years ago today, combined forces of the United States waded ashore on the beaches of Normandy. June 6, 1944 has become a defining memory maker for a generation that's rapidly disappearing. On that day, the situation was tenuous for a time, but individual acts of heroism, parachuting into St. Lo, scaling the cliffs of Point du Hoc, or charging machine gun nests at Omaha Beach, ultimately defined and determined the outcome. Beyond those personal acts, D-Day showed an enormous outpouring of America's industrial might that in 3 short years provided the ships, planes, and vehicles to undertake the greatest amphibious assault in history. Today, only approximately 1.2 million are still living, and they're dying at a rate approaching 1,000 per day. Some of their memories have been preserved, but the tangible link of their presence is rapidly disappearing. So perhaps the greatest lesson of D-Day is that nothing is impossible for the American people. During that time, the tremendous outpouring of America's industrial strength was exceeded only by the bravery and determination of America's men and women. They were a can-do generation that did not take no for an answer. They did not put off until tomorrow what needed to be done today. We should remember their resolve, honor their commitment, and seek to emulate their example in the factories of America to the beaches of Normandy. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Boncino. Mr. Castiglia?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. We had a planning board work session last night. There were 2 applications that were of interest. G&G Wholesale Flower Supply over on Midland Ave. They're looking for warehouse space over on East 54th Street here. And that will be in the building where we used to have amusement rides. Do you remember that on East 54th Street? There was a building there where they stored, they're gone. So G&G Flores from Midland Park's going to be just using that for warehousing. They still have their place on Midland Avenue. That was one. It's not voted on yet, but we're working on it. It was in for a work meeting last night. Also, BioReference was in again. We worked a little bit on their parking plan for 41 Slater Drive. They're going to be hopefully be moving into that property, 140,000 square feet they'll be picking up. It will be done in 3 phases. It's going to consist of office, laboratory, and warehousing space. And it's always a pleasure working with BioReference. We all know that. And everything goes nice and smoothly, so they're welcome to expand in town anytime they want.
I understand they wanted Rosemont next.
Yeah, you can take my house. Take it. All right, every year our borough engineer and the DPW superintendent, they go out and they ride around town and they take a look at the roads and they make up a priority list of which roads in town need resurfacing more than any other. You know, usually get a list of maybe 10, 11, 15 streets. And of course, by how much we're going to spend, we have to go in and cut it where that amount of money comes to. This year, I think we had an alternate plan. We had 3 streets originally on there that were acceptable. We had a couple of alternate streets also. I want to just read off the names of. This is the last I remember. If I'm wrong, I need somebody to correct me. Lincoln Avenue between Spidell Ave and the Boulevard is going to be resurfaced. Rosemont Ave between Columbia Street and Willow Street. Fournier Crescent between Real Street and Cadmus Ave. East 54th between Gilbert Ave and East Washington. And 18th Ave between East 54th and East 55th. Now, sometimes if the bids come in a little low and we could get in another street, we might do that. And I believe Rosedale was on there to be a section of Rosedale.
Rosedale between Magnolia and Columbia.
Right, that'll probably be getting done this year also. The mayor and I went to Hackensack last month, community development meeting. We went in trying to get $172,000 for improvements to Orange Avenue. Money is tight, everybody knows that. Every year we go there and it's 5%, 10%, 15% less than the total amount, the total pot was the year before. So like I said, we went in looking for $172,000. They weren't sure on the figure yet exactly what our district was going to get as a total pot sum. So we were reduced down to about $160,000 by the time we left the meeting. But even getting the $160,000 was an accomplishment, the way things are going. We received word recently that the money coming in is a little bit more than they expected. So we're going to be getting the whole $172,000 that we originally requested. And that should go into improvements on Orange Avenue. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, last thing, don't forget the American Legion. Bingo every Tuesday, 7:15. They need some people down there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Pedagano?
Thank you, Mayor. A little slow at the health department this past couple weeks, although we did have a pet immunization last Monday. There were over 100 people there. It's been better, but it's low cost and it's very effective. We will be having another later in the year. The coyotes have been sighted again over the past couple weeks. We just saw, someone said they saw one the other night. So I think we're going to have to get some signs out there. I think it's going to be getting to the point where it can be a risk for us if we don't let people know before they go in.
We're going to let people know because I see the reporter from the community news and maybe she can write a little
Coyotes.
story about coyotes spotted.
Annual coyote.
Okay. But help Mr. Pedagano out. Maybe we can get a little story that they should...
Or I can make up little signs myself and post them. I mean,
Make sure you give Roadrunner equal press, though.
What are you going to say, slow down for coyote?
well, sure.
They look like little dogs, so you have to be careful.
You have to be very careful. What has happened in the past couple of weeks, though, is that a couple of them are coming out during the day. One person had told me that they look sick. So this is something we do have to be concerned about, I think, and something we do have to warn people about in town before they walk near or around the woods. And that's it.
I'll look for that in the paper.
Okay.
By the way, I do want to comment, I saw a coyote, and didn't have any hair on it, the tail didn't have...
Well, that's the mange
Yeah,
that we're
yeah.
concerned about, that they're sick.
And usually they have the puffy tail, this had nothing, and it really looked
Right.
ill.
So it,
Yeah, so stay away from those, thank you. Mr. Coletti?
Yes. I'd like to talk a little about the signal light. I know many of these council members have experienced from residents in conversations that why do things take so long in government? You guys don't move quick enough. And this signal light is a classical example of focusing and not giving up until you achieve your goal. When I first came on the council, this council was engrossed in addressing the situation, and they suggested I go down there myself and see how dangerous it was. So I got there about 7:30 in the morning, and I tried to cross the street, and it was lethal. I left there saying that something's going to happen here, and we have to resolve it. So we kept pushing. This mayor called a meeting with state legislators from both districts. They came down. We had our administrator with us, and they all seen the danger of it, and they walked away, and time passed, and it seemed like nothing was going to happen, although our administrator stayed on top of it, trying to keep it moving. And about 2 months ago, we were at a function, and we ran into Bob Gordon, the state senator, and I said to him, Bob, do me a favor. One morning, go down there, get out of your car, and try and cross there. He says, Bob, I traverse there all the time, and I get through fine. I says, that's you. I says, that's, you're probably an exceptional driver who's cognizant of the road. But 7 out of 10 drivers, especially in the morning, just waking up, groggy, got the coffee in one hand, and then you got this ridiculous setup there with an amber light, and you have people who are trying to catch a train, rushing. It's an accident waiting to happen. So a month went by, I ran into Bob again. He didn't go. And I said to him again, Bob, please go down there, do me a favor, and go down there and feel it. Feel the nature of the situation. So through the diligence of this council, and the moral of this story is not giving up. And I think we're seeing some results due to that fact. So, okay, pursuant to our fire department, they held Memorial Day services at their park on Mulner Drive. The services were solemn, but yet inspiring. A great moment of remembrance of their colleagues who aren't with us any longer. And the theme, let us not forget, stayed with you throughout the course of the day. I will be attending the next Fire Chiefs meeting on June 10th, and I emphasize Fire Chiefs meeting because in the past I've been saying Captain's meeting incorrectly. Now, I'd like to thank Nikki for that, for bringing it to my attention. And Nikki's been after me for a year and a half now, and he says that he just sees me at these council meetings wearing a bow tie. He wants me to put a bow tie on. I said, you put the bow tie on. I said, I'm not putting a bow tie on. But now that he's caught me in this mistake, Nikki, I think I'm going to have to concede and someday wear a bow tie. We'll see. Regarding our school district, I think Councilman Vancino said it all in reference to the threats there, so I won't be redundant. But I do want to say that I do believe the dark days of this district have been in back of us now, and it's healing and moving forward that is in front of us. It's going to take each and every one of us to put our differences aside and bring this district back to being sound and formidable. Reliving the past will only drown the future, and the sun is starting to peek through So let us not eclipse that sun with negativity. And kudos goes out to our Board of Rec and its director, Donna Puglisi, and staff on making this past Saturday, Community Day, a bigger and better event. And I think it's self-evident, this event is becoming more popular with our residents each and every year, and achieving its goal by bringing more and more of our town residents together. Nice job, guys. Mayor?
Thank you. Mr. Giblin? My report, let me bring this up first. I just received a letter requesting a closure of Spidell Avenue between Gilbert Avenue and Falmouth Avenue on June 15th for the purpose of a neighborhood block party. It's been happening for the last few years. Maybe we can have a motion on that, so I don't know when we're going to have another public meeting could be ratified. Can I have a motion on that?
Second.
Boncino and Conboy, all in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kazmark, would you take this, please? Secondly, comment on Councilman Castiglio, $172,000 to pave Orange Avenue. That's what we went in at, and that's what we ended up getting. We're very pleased that with the help of Councilman Castiglio, we were able to get that money to pave Orange Avenue. In the sad section of it, we have Park and Ride. I received notice this week that the state said we're not going to get it, that we don't have money for Park and Ride. We're trying to build a Park and Ride just off River Drive here by the Locust Avenue, and we have everything in place. Everything is confirmed by the Department of Transportation. Then they got back to us and said they didn't have the money. Well, we just found $24 million. Maybe we can go for 25 and fix that place up. But and it's something that will help us out financially. We have to take care of it, but it would provide parking. And as I've said many times, we hear park your car and take a bus and go to the city. We're providing parking, and the state's telling us, take your car and go to the city. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. I once again emphasize the fact that the Bergen County freeholders have indicated that they are going to try to fix the road between River Drive and River Road. That's the V in the road by the hot dog place on, what is that, Falls View?
Riverview.
Riverview. They're trying to bring that up a little bit so that when you make the turn, you're not going to skid into the fence. They've replaced that fence about 10 times already over the years. So that may help us. You mentioned Fleischer Brook. We have $180,000. I understand there's supposed to be a heavy rainstorm this weekend. And we put $180,000 into fixing the brook. We've had all 8 culverts replaced by the county, all 8. That's all we have. I don't want to say too much before the rains might come, and I don't want to jinx that, but we've been doing very well so far, and the DPW is doing a good job trying to keep it clear. I want to ask the residents, please, don't dump anything into the brook. We pick up, every week we pick up any yard waste. We have. You call my office, the recycling office, we'll pick up things that if you don't have it, TVs and things of that nature. Don't just dump it or dump it in the brook. It just hurts people. So the $180,000 is going into enlarging the brook on the south side of Kip Avenue. We're going to try to work it all the way down to the Garfield line where they have the massive diversion. I think it's 12 to 16 feet that takes all the water from the brook and brings it out into the Passaic River. And we're going to be trying to work with Garfield to see if we can continue the short distance to go right to that diversionary line. Someone, I think it was, who was it, that mentioned the streetscape, 180, I think it was Mr. Caramagna. Mr. Caramagna, I'd like to add $4,000 more to your $584,000. It's for streetscape. I've inquired if we can do anything else with that money besides just the streetscape, since it's coming from Department of Transportation, and I've been told No. So it's not that we don't want the money for the streetscape, it's just that there may be some things we want to be able to help out on that. As for the signal light on Route 4, as was indicated by Mr. Coletti and Mr. Boncino, it was always so dangerous over there. We didn't have many accidents. Everybody was watching. Now they put that flashing white light up there. Most people don't know what the light is. And we got a call from somebody in Elmwood Park in Rosemont. They were in an accident. I know there were 2 accidents and people in Fairlawn. I know there was another accident from a person in Elmwood Park. What happens, they're driving down a fast lane, it's 35 miles an hour. They're going faster than that, especially if the traffic light on East 54th Street is green. They're getting up a full head of steam, and then they can't stop. And if the person in front sees somebody crossing that walk, whether the flashing light's on or not, they stop. And we've had accidents there already. So it's becoming a dangerous situation while we're trying to fix it up. It's ironic that this situation has happened. So I hope they get to doing something there. Just today I was riding home, and a young lady was coming out of school, and a fellow was walking with her, and he's waving me to stop, which I did. There was no crosswalk or anything. I just stopped. She was busy on her texting. She never saw me. And I've seen, in fact, we were there with Senator Poe and a couple of the Assembly people, and we saw people walking across the street texting. They're not looking. And it's getting more and more dangerous. So hopefully we can get that resolved by getting some kind of traffic light or something there that's going to do it. One thing in relation to Mr. Boncino's statement about today, June 6th of June, and D-Day and so forth, we have a gentleman in town who passed away just this last year, Jack McGrath, who was in the paratroopers, and he dropped beyond Normandy into France, and he was there for the entire war. I found out since then that we have many other people in Elmwood Park and surrounding communities in the Normandy invasion. And it's tough getting information out from these people because they don't usually tell you. We know about Jack McGrath because he was in the book Band of Brothers. And he gained some publicity by doing that. But there are so many people, and I know Mr. Boncino's dad was in the service in World War II, and Councilman Boncino mentioned something the other day. His son is what, 19 now? And your father was in? 19. He's having trouble saying, my son would be over there fighting, shooting at people. It's tough to understand what the people in the 1940s went through in World War II and how young they were. And I just want to mention this, and I want to congratulate and thank our reporter from the Community News. She did an excellent job. We had someone come into Elmwood Park a couple of weeks ago. His name was Joseph Brex, B-R-I-X. He was from Holland, and he was here touring the United States, and he stopped into Elmwood Park, and this is for the TV really, because anybody in town may have read that article. He stopped in Elmwood Park and told us that he takes care of one of the graves in Holland. He's Dutch. He takes care of one of the graves of one of the servicemen who died in the invasion of Normandy and World War II in Holland. He's doing it. His father did it before him. His grandfather did it before him. There are people in the country of Holland who take care of the cemeteries and the grave sites of American soldiers who died there. We had a gentleman, he's a young man, very young man, Vincent Miles, who was a paratrooper. And he died in the invasion. And this Mr. Brex takes care of his gravesite. In fact, I sent him a plaque of Miles Street. We have a street named after him, and we sent him a small plaque so that he can put it on the gravesite that says Vincent Miles, Elmwood Park, New Jersey, U.S. of A. And he wanted that, and we gave that to him. We sent it to him. And the reason I bring it up is, as Mr. Boncino indicated, people forget World War II. They forget how many people lost their lives in that conflict. And here we have people from Holland so thankful that we did what we did to save that country. And I think that's enormous. And I think that's something our youngsters should know and at least remember what would happen there. The interesting part about Mr. Miles, Vincent Miles, is that he gave his life to save Europe and Holland, Belgium, and all the other countries in that area. He parachuted into Holland. His parachute got hung up in a tree, and the Germans shot him. Here's a man who never actually, his feet never touched the ground in Europe, and gave his life. It's kind of an ironic story that he gave so much and never really touched the European soil. So we're so appreciative of Mr. Brex for doing this, and we just want to indicate to everybody here, especially the younger people, older people don't really talk about it, they just remember it, that the sacrifices made in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, it's monumental, and so many of our young people have given up so much for us. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? By the way, before you, if I may, I just jotted down, we had 172,000, 184,000, 29,000 for the Clean Communities grant. So far, we're up to about almost $800,000 in grants that Elmwood Park has received, which is significant. People always comment to me, why don't we get grants like everybody else? Well, we get them.
Steve Conti, 274 Market.
Is that who you are?
Yes.
Okay.
Couple of things. Status of our passive park. Okay. Status of the library improvements and what they're planning to do. Do we know yet?
They're still working on that. The passive park, we were told by the county, I'm not happy with it, that they're going to clean it up 10 feet back, and that's not enough. So we'll be doing more on that. The county is responsible. They own that park, and we have trees there. We were told when we met with someone from the county that they're not going to cut these trees that fell down. Some of them is 10, 15 feet high, even though they did fall down. And they said they want them there because they'll disintegrate and help the soil and everything else. I think I'd have to run for another 40 terms before any of that wood dissolves. So we're working on that. They promised us money, Mr. Conti. We're not forgetting about it, and we're going to be asking the county.
I'm bring it up, though. It's my usual routine. You were saying about Fleisch's Brook, and how's the Garfield section? Is that relatively clean?
One of the things I'd like to indicate, and I'll look at Mr. Boncino. Didn't I just mention that? Was somebody not listening in the audience? Yeah, somebody was not.
You're missing my point.
The point is, we got almost $200,000 to go to Garfield.
I understand that.
Right.
And we redid the from here to Garfield. That's not the issue. The issue is in Garfield. Okay. Our area of Fleisch's Brook could be clear as a bell.
Right.
No debris and stuff like that. I'm speaking about their end.
That's what I just said. We're working with the mayor of Garfield to see if the next community development grant, if they can put a little bit of their extra money, because they are a whole homeless community, they get a lot more than we do. If we can put some of our money in, they can put some of their money in and work it out, so we can clear right down to the diversion. What'd that say? I don't know.
Steve, if you could
How much
speak
time do we
louder
have?
into the mic.
I think it says
Mr.
talking to the
Cameron.
mic.
You have to speak louder.
Thank you.
Okay. I can't see that.
Your glasses are up here.
Your forehead, Ken.
That's okay.
Yes, we're working with them to clear it up, and as you know, we cleared up the lower end of the brook so the water flows better.
The paving on Market Street, I assume that's on hold right now. with
Yes.
the county.
Yes.
What about the improvements on the corner of Market and the Boulevard? When is that going to be started?
14 months ago. Mr. Attorney, would you just...
Yeah, we've gotten easements for all of the properties except for one, and I've been negotiating with that property owner's attorney for the last several weeks, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get that last piece of property shortly.
Now, after all that is done, I assume that's where the clock is going?
Yes.
Okay. I assume that clock is not in warranty anymore, right? How old is that clock? Do we know if it even works at this stage of the game?
I don't think it's been taken out of the box.
Okay. Regarding the threat at the school, do we still have a resource officer at the school?
No.
Okay. Just want to ask that question. What about a speed table, a speed bump on Route 4 to slow the traffic down? For the
That's up to the state, and I don't think the state's going to put a speed bump on the highway.
Yeah, and that wouldn't help, Mayor.
Well, they are trying to slow down the traffic on Route 4 in Fair Lawn with Fair Lawn's project. That's why I'm just bringing that up.
Yeah, the state ruled out the bump outs as they didn't think it would be effective
Okay.
in their.
You're talking bump outs, he's talking speed.
Well, to reduce speed, bump outs would
Reduce the
reduce the
speed.
speed, yeah.
Status of the removal of the trees and debris along River Road. Status quo?
No, we've got some of them out. You're talking about along the river?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've gotten some of them out already.
Okay. I'm not too sure about that. That's okay.
If you want to check it out, just tell me, or tell Mr. Castiglio, the clerk, what street it's near, and
No, the trees, you can see the trees on both sides that have fallen. People have put branches up, people have put branches on the riverside.
shouldn't do that.
But you see it, and you wonder why we have flooding, everything gets clogged up into the river. My issue behind me, which is called Terrace Street, or Terrace Ave, kind of funeral home. You have a lot of, obviously, this is not going to get paved. A lot of potholes and things like that. Do I have permission from maybe the borough attorney if I could patch those holes? Is it a liability issue?
Is it our street?
It's a paper street. It's a dedicated street.
If it's our street, we'll call the DPW and they'll patch it.
Okay?
Terrace, eh?
Terrace. Can anybody tell me how many calls the police responded to the first half of the year?
I don't have the number offhand. We could get that. That's probably one
Okay, I
of the
would be
reports.
curious, because compared to the other towns, you know, how many calls the other towns have had responses?
I'd have to ask the chief. He keeps numbers on our department. Usually at the end of the year, there's a comparison to other county departments in the state.
Do we have many abandoned properties in town? I know on Chamberlain Avenue, there's a house with weeds, the grass has got to be, 2.5 feet high.
We have some, I don't know exactly how many. All the towns, there was an article in the...
No, I realize that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how many we have.
I think last DPW said that they were taking care of 10 or 11 properties.
That many?
Through you, Mayor, there's two ways to generate that number. One is, there was a law passed in the legislature about 2 years ago where any houses that are in foreclosure or that are abandoned, they need to send notification, the bank needs to send notification to the municipal clerk's office. So we maintain a file on all of those houses. Now, just because they're in that file doesn't necessarily mean that they're not being maintained. So we have one of our inspectors who's in charge of going out, determining if any of these houses are not being maintained. We make at least 4 or 5 efforts to contact the bank. If the bank is not responsive, then we will get a recommendation from the building department for the council to place a lien on the property and have the DPW maintain the property, and then we place the lien on it. So once the financial situation surrounding the property is rectified, the borough gets reimbursed for those efforts.
I'm curious about the River Road apartments, Mr. Langen's property. Do we know what his next phase of his project is at this time? Has he come in at all for?
No, its next phase is just about started.
A couple of things I want to bring up, which are in the past, but I still want to bring them up because I think they are of concern. I saw in the paper a few weeks ago, the town of Saddlebrook is buying one of their old nursing homes, and they're putting in senior housing, which is interesting for the fact that I think a lot of times here we've missed the boat on a couple of issues. We can go back as far as the Cherry Hill School being sold. The town should have bought it from the Board of Education and kept it. The Hillman property. Okay?
Can I comment on that?
Well, can I finish first?
Yes.
Thank you. The Hillman property, I think we missed the boat on, as well as Maine Trucking, as well as Elmwood Ford. I brought up in the past about buying properties which would benefit the town. And I think the Hillman property would have been first and foremost an opportunity. And I think we're a little, don't see the forest through the trees at times. And I think the only way for the town to progress is by having change. Hillman would have been a perfect spot. Elmwood Ford, even though some people may disagree with me, I thought it was going to be a perfect police department and DPW, considering a lot of your arrests are up in that area. Now we're having more stores going on a strip of roadway, which is tough enough to get on from the co-ops, tough enough to get on from the River Road, tough enough to get in and out of the Pathmark, but yet we're putting more stores. And I just think we're being very short-sighted. I know at this stage of the game, let me finish. I think at this stage of the game, the availability of property in this town is little, to say the least. So to make changes now is obviously impossible. But I think in the past we've missed some opportunities.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to make a comment.
I was, but
Well, I'm just making a point.
quite frankly, the Hillman property,
Yeah.
Hillman property was designated by a previous council and myself for a professional office building, to keep apartments out, keep large trucking companies out, to keep big stores out that have massive numbers of people coming in, and we had COA that overturned that.
No, I understand that, but I would have thought it would be a perfect opportunity for the town itself to buy it.
You know, the town itself, if they buy that, they buy Elmwood Ford, they buy everything else. We're trying to keep taxes down. All we're doing is buying property.
You're trying to show improvement in your town.
We are.
No, you're not.
Brooke,
I disagree.
Elmwood Ford is going to be a good store.
Gentlemen, how many of your arrests are up on Route 4?
That's where most of the stops are on Route 4.
Exactly, thank you.
So what's that mean?
Flourishing retail, it's a retail.
If we put
Retail area.
click it and ticket on Route 46, which we do, and on Route 4 or on the boulevard, you're going to get an equal number of people. It's not only us, it's also
We're not talking about
it's also the prosecutor's office and the county police who put stops there. And we've been accused by the Passaic Patterson Council that we're prejudiced. We put a stop there. I want to tell you this, and I'll tell Patterson this. You have people coming on Route 20. They make a right turn, cross the bridge, and they're on Route 4. You drive River Road. You make a right turn or a left turn, both ways, you're on River Road. So half the traffic isn't coming from Patterson, it's coming from the highways. And that's why we get a lot of stops there. And I think it's very good that we do get stops.
Broadway is a flourishing retail district for us. And with, unfortunately, with a flourishing district, more and more people come into that area. With more and more people coming into that area, does the crime rate go up? I think if you would average it out over everything else, it's probably going to be higher than a residential street in town.
So the crime rate will increase.
Well, you get more people in the area.
Of course.
There's more cars, there's
Now,
more
you just
stores.
You just laid the point out for me.
I laid the
Hiring of
point
police
out.
officers. That's why I brought up, I wanted to know how many incident reports were filed where cops had to respond to an incident in town the first half of the year. Because I'm sure compared to Fairlawn and Saddlebrook, we're probably double. But our force is not as high as those two towns comparatively.
Well, we'll let the police chief argue that. We give
Is it
out,
possible to have that answer next week? For a work session or for the next public meeting?
We could get the incidents in town. I don't know if we could get a comparison to other towns.
Okay, well maybe I will. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak? If
Jeffrey Fry today, 30 October Drive.
Got that?
Oh, that's not too loud. We were talking about coyotes before. Are we talking about coyotes or are we talking about fox?
Well, actually, I believe there was a sighting of a fox this week also. I'm not 100% sure of that, but no, they're coyotes. Real coyotes, yes.
Wily or?
Well, we haven't named him, but it could be if you
I
would
saw a
like.
fox in the parking lot by Markel, by the one area there on River Drive, by Summit.
There are a couple
During
by
the
the,
daytime.
by the river, I
They
believe.
did kind of look a little,
Yeah.
but they are very thin and small. And, okay, but coyotes,
Mangy
that's
looking.
interesting. I know
We've
it's
had a
fun,
reduction in rats and mice from the coyotes. This is a good plus thing.
But I heard about the light that's going to be put on Broadway Route 4 regarding the crossing, pedestrian crossing by the railroad there. Is it going to be, are there any plans, have you heard anything, I guess the DOT would look into that, if they would time the red signal that the person would press and it would turn red to the crossing on 54th and Broadway?
They said they were going to look in as part of the engineering to synchronize those somewhat. Now, I don't know how much synchronization can be done with the pedestrian initiated lights, but that's something that was on the plate when we discussed it.
I know one of the issues that appear to be there is that not only it's 4 lanes wide, two on the Fair Lawn and 2 on the Elmwood Park
Right.
side, and if you're stopped and you're in the quote-unquote slow lane, people sometimes come out from behind you or
Right,
go down
yeah.
the left lane and don't see the individual crossing there. They think you're stopped because you're reading the newspaper there, I guess.
That's correct.
And the person crosses in front of your car. One of the issues that seem to perplex me regarding pedestrian crossings or pedestrians crossing where they shouldn't be crossing. The law is a little vague about where you should cross them, but are any jaywalking tickets ever written?
We had our former police chief was out there with a group of our officers and gave out a significant number by having someone just walk across the street, and the cars that didn't stop, they ticketed them.
That I understand. We're talking about
Talking about the walker.
auto traffic. I'm talking about people who just kind of like saunter out from nowhere and cross where they shouldn't be crossing.
At that particular area, next to the trestle, I think there is a walkway there, so they do cross in that walkway. We do have a significant number of people in the Elmwood Park area where there's a sign in the middle of the Route 4 that says cross at traffic lights, and I've seen numerous people duck under the sign to get to the other side. They're not going to walk that far.
I know there are pedestrians that are injured frequently across the entire state. I always wondered whether or not the DOT used the pedestrian statistics to create this problem that might not be a problem, except that people jaywalk frequently and are crossing where they shouldn't be crossing. And maybe they're hit because of that versus where they're crossing in a safe area in a crosswalk and are struck. But I don't think the statistics take that into play. That's only my thoughts, but it seems that a lot of people do jaywalk.
Mr. Freitag, we have a state law that says you're supposed to stop for pedestrians. People don't know that. I go to St. Leo's Church on Sunday morning, get out of church, and the whole group of us are walking across. Hey, you have to wait for the car to come by. They won't stop. It's absolutely amazing how they either don't know or I've got a bigger car than you have shoes, and I'm going first.
Thank God you prayed when you were in church.
But I wasn't praying for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I go for a walk often, and I cross the boulevard in a couple of different spots. I try to use a crosswalk most times. And I have noticed the difference now. Before, they would see you in the crosswalk, and they just shoot right past, and you still had to wait for a break to cross the street. Now I see that they zoom past you, then they jam on the brakes, and they back up and they apologize.
Maybe
You were in the
because they like
crosswalk, and they didn't stop. But
Maybe they know you now, they like you.
maybe that's
They're
what
not
it is.
aiming for you.
Yeah, but the manners are getting better now. They're still zooming past,
I
but,
think it's catching on.
Yeah.
Lord.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll close the public portion. The comment about, yes.
Rich Kowinski, 42 Walnut Street. Mayor, can you, and the council, can you enlighten me? I was at the last work meeting about the library board. Are we going ahead with the expansion of the library to spend $1.2 million of the taxpayers' money?
No, it's not an expansion of the library for $1.2 million. That money may be spent to do a lot of things within the library. They're still working on it.
I understand, last time I was on the council, we talked about remodeling the library versus an addition. I think at this time, and I've said it before, it's prudent not to spend the whole $1.2 million on the library extensions. Mr. Flancino brought it up at the last meeting about utilizing the space internally in the library. And I've heard some pros and cons on that. But I hope this council does look into saving the taxpayers some money, because the excess funds can go back to the taxpayers, as we know, under law, just to pay down taxes, and that's it. And contrary to some statements I've heard, it is the taxpayers' money. It's not the library's money, it's the taxpayers' money. Their due diligence is to work well with that money and save it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard? I'll close the public portion of the meeting. I just want to comment that the library has saved that money. Is it taxpayers' money? Yes, they saved it over the years, over 30 years. They've saved that money, and they want to add an addition to the library for the children's area, okay? And then they will fix a variety of different things in the building that have to be done. If they're not done with the taxpayers' money that they've saved, the town would have to fix it. Otherwise, you shut the library down. I wish we would be more proactive with the library. We're trying to do things at the schools. We're trying to do things in recreation. I don't know why we're having such a big argument over putting a children's addition into the library. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Conboy, second by Mr. Pedagano. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So ordered. Oh, before we close, Tuesday, 12 o'clock for the video. Tuesday, 12 noon. Thursday, 4 p.m. and Friday, 11 a.m. Okay? Thank you very much.